Luca is recording. Okay.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Luca Majno here with Frank Gregory Ford. This is Global News Update on TLBTV, courtesy of the Liberty Beacon Project, where we give you complete backstage and up-to-date info as to the developments occurring in our world today. Mouthful number 35 or 34 or 36. Very specially and a good warm welcome to you, Greg, before I go into my solitude here.
Okay, Luca, ready to go.
How are you doing today?
I'm in fine form. You know, I just watched John Kiriakou, okay, on his video. I'll tell you what, boy, does he have a lot to talk about. And the American people and the listeners on this show should hear him. And I want to make sure he gets on the show if possible.
Okay. And his book, The Convenient Terrorist, which we're showing. Okay, well, this comes from Aladdin's Miracle Lamp, and this is from last July 2016. Quote: New World Order. Rothschild wants Iran's banks. Rothschild obtained Iraq's banks, central bank. Rothschild obtained Muammar Gaddafi's Libyan gold. Syria and Iran are next using the U.S. military machine. And I'm like, okay, why don't we break this down? First of all, most of us can remember the four-star General Wesley Clark's chilling words, 7 countries in 5 years. So this is planned and executed, right? So today on Snapshot, we're going to watch the countries go down. Watch the top of the images as they go by with the names of the countries on them, and the amounts too. There are only 9 countries left in the world without a Rothschild central bank, right? We are going to take out 7 countries in 5 years. Okay? Il reste seulement 9 pays dans le monde sans une banque centrale Rothschild. In French, what does that mean? There's only 9 countries left in the world without a central bank owned by the Rothschilds. In the year 2000, there were 8 countries without a Rothschild-owned central bank. We're going to take out 5 countries in the next 7 years. There are only 3 countries left in the world without a Rothschild central bank. There it is again. We're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq, then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran. And then underneath it, in the same meme, it says, a satanic plan to slaughter millions and displace huge populations to poverty. And I'm like, hang on a second. Didn't they just do that twice in the last 200 years or so? Let's look at what the Rothschild Inc. has done, okay? The native population, the original people of Turtle Island, as we call them here, and the rightful and honorable Palestinian people, genociding them both, okay? But, you know, the Palestinians will just genocide them for Zionist Israel. But they're 2 coups, same father, Rothschild in both cases. So we know how long this can take. You can't just go in there and slaughter them all off at once, right? But what they do is they play politics. I got a good meme, Greg, today called Politics, and that's what they do. You know, the CIA likes you in 1959, Mr. Saddam Hussein. Oh, sorry, you know, oops, we'll hang you in the year 2000. Same thing as in 2006 or 2009, anytime it is needed, right? Do you understand what is happening yet? You know, and now this is why we're looking at the reason why the U.S. will go to war with Iran. A central bank not owned by the Rothschilds. But don't believe us. Go and check out how, quote, the Gates Rothschild New World Order, unquote, works. And now we have an explosive outburst from a friend on social media. Greg, you're going to love this one. He calls it, Pakistan is harboring terrorists, but America is harboring saints. And he explains it really well. He says, somebody is always harboring something, according to American presidents, okay? And he goes down the list very quickly. Vietnam was harboring communist regime. Cuba was harboring socialist agenda. Just like Iraq was harboring weapons of mass destruction. Libya was harboring ISIS. Iran was harboring nuclear assets. North Korea is harboring missiles. Syria is harboring anti-American sentiments. Yemen is harboring anti-Saudi emotions. Then we go to China, who's harboring economic dominance goals, and Venezuela's harboring the guts to stand up to America. Someone is always harboring something according to American presidents. So, okay, let's look at the other side. Let's look what America is harboring that the world probably has a problem with, okay? America is harboring intentions to rule the world. What do they call that, Greg? Hegemony? World hegemony?
Hegemony, right.
Hegemony, yeah. It's harboring military bases in over 98 countries around the world. It's harboring an institution called the CIA that topples governments around the world and that does coups d'etats or regime change whenever they want under the guise of democracy. America is harboring economic hitmen that ruin other countries' economies. It's harboring the world's largest stockpile of nuclear ammunition. It's harboring the world's corrupt money by calling it asset shelters. It's harboring a Congress and a Senate that takes money from the lobbying firms in the shape of campaign funds and then sells its policy decisions. It's harboring a financial system which borrows $16 trillion, mostly from foreigners, to use it to fund attacks on the lenders themselves. I like that one. That was pretty good. But most of all, it's harboring an image that it cares about the world. Greg, welcome to the show. That was my calling. I had to throw that in because I think it's really important that people look at that. Just as, like on our last show, we talked about Zionism, I think it's important that people should see why we're in the Middle East and what the deal is.
And by the way, as of yesterday, I heard something very interesting. Okay. I think that's why people call me and tell me, because I know I'm going to put it on your show, Luca.
I hope so.
But now I heard that we can plan, the United States, we can plan since the discovery of all that oil, that since nobody knew that oil was there in Afghanistan, and they're going to change the official name from Afghanistan to Pipelanistan.
Right.
All right. Okay. But they're still keeping the stand part. Okay.
Right.
And okay. And we are going to be there 50 years. Okay. Since you bet everybody watching this will probably be dead by the time we pull out of Afghanistan.
Can you say poppy fields? Can you say
and yes,
drugs?
Yes. Did you see that? American soldiers guarding Afghanistan poppy fields. Yes, between Afghanistan and Pakistan, who has been financing most of those bad old Taliban and those bad old Al Qaeda. Okay, let me see. Who started Taliban? Wasn't it us?
Right.
Okay, who started the Taliban?
Well,
wasn't it us who started Al Qaeda and ran Al Qaeda? Okay, all right.
So before we move on to Afghanistan, I want to show that map again, that shows how many treasures are under Afghan soil, and what is really going on and why we're really in there. We're showing the slide right now, showing the different gems that are underground in Afghanistan. I'm sorry, don't mean to interrupt, Greg.
By the way, just for your listeners to know, I was in Iraq and I happened to come across an American gem hunter in Iraq. And he says, okay, and I believe him, he said the only people in Afghanistan who didn't know where Osama bin Laden was were the Americans, okay? And everybody was mystified because Osama bin Laden had about 2,000 of his people with him, an entourage in a land that can barely support anybody, one family and a few goats. But here's 2,000 people wandering around, prominent foreign fighters, okay, and the Americans couldn't find him. Right. I would love to sit down and have a talk with lying W. Bush, George W. Bush. I'd love to have a talk with him sometime. And just for good measure, I'll even throw in Dick Frankenstein Cheney, okay, for good measure. All right. So, and I have a lot of other people that would like to talk to Mr. Mr. Cheney, okay? Right. I mean, what can you say about him? But but in the meantime, oh yes, and they're changing the name, the unofficial name of Afghanistan, to the Saudi Arabia of lithium.
Right.
All you folks with all your little batteries, your car batteries, and your Teslas and all this kind of stuff, you can thank, the downtrodden, run over, shot, blown up, attacked, droned, predatored folks of Afghanistan for giving you the lithium in your car, okay, in your batteries. Now, as I've always been saying to your listeners, as in before, okay, here's the deal. There's always redirection. Anytime our government says anything, it's always something covering up somewhere else, right? You get to looking over here, and we'll do something very clever over there, okay? That's why mothers, please don't let your babies join the U.S. military. Please don't, all right? Don't let them join the CIA or the Cocaine Importation Agency or the NSA, which just can't quite seem to stay away from poking their nose into everybody's life, okay? Please don't let them join any of these organizations. So, yes, while that was all going on in the last few days, very, very quietly, the American government was removing warrants, okay, judicial warrants, as in served to legally and for good reason, on the good grounds, to inspect your home by peace officers, okay, or law enforcement agencies, but they needed to get a warrant, and the warrants were very exacting in where they could look. Well, get ready to call your representative, because 99% of the politicians, as in being led by John McCain, as in being led by Joe Lieberman, as being led by Lindsey Graham, as being led by, Hillary Clinton. I guess she's kind of dodging warrants for her arrest. Okay, I guess we can't issue those now. Okay, so what we have here is the government can walk up to your door at random, kick in your door at random, go into your house, take whatever they want at random, all right? And there's nothing you can do now. Okay, I know, and you know what's going to happen is somebody's going to have this happen. They're going to raise an issue, and then, well, you should have said something when this law was being passed at 2 o'clock in the morning. All right, very, very quietly. So yes, I said 99% of the senators and congressmen and your representatives allowed this. They didn't even debate it, by the way.
No.
But only 1% deferred or resisted or opposed. Call your senators and say, your congressman, and say, you're fired. You're fired. All right. Gee. Oh, well, who do we have in there to, that's qualified to represent us? Anybody is qualified to represent us. With these crooked sons of bitches in there, we don't need this kind of help and this kind of representation.
Greg,
all right?
Greg, that was exactly the same thing with the farmers when they tried to raise an issue with their congressmen and their, representatives about the joint venture, between what was it, Dow and DuPont and Bayer and Monsanto and the future of farming. Hello, nobody raised an issue in Congress. Not a problem. Not one.
Not one. And here's something everyone should love. How many people have died, okay, Luca, in the last few days from opioid overdoses? What, 600,000-700,000 maybe? Who knows? Okay. Well, here's something that should get your blood pressure up. Get it? Blood pressure as in medicine?
Right.
Okay. All right, folks. Make a note of these numbers.
I got it.
68,000 doctors in America have been bribed bribed with $47 million bribed to make them by Big Pharma. Okay, this was a cash pool from Big Pharma to have your doctor, and in 68,000, I can bet my doctor's in that pool too. 68,000 to subscribe and prescribe basically illegal or highly dangerous drugs to your loved ones. Okay, right. As in opioids. You wonder where 150 people a day are getting enough to OD on? Your doctors. Okay, 68,000 of them. And they'll pounce on somebody that finds a cure for cancer in a second. They'll send them to prison, in a second. Lyme's disease. How many doctors went to prison last year for finding a real cure for Lyme's disease? 8, 9, okay. I know for a fact about 8 or 9 went to prison for refusing to use standard treatment for Lyme's disease, one of the greatest debilitating diseases in America right now. All right. So yes, we do need a repeal on Obamacare because, as I suspected all along, Obama just said, "Hey, you guys, want to make a whole bunch of money? Give me a new health care program." Okay, that's who he went to. He didn't ask the people of America. He went to Goldman Sachs and all these others and said, "Look, contact these folks, these HMOs and Big Pharma, and just say, give me a working model of a healthcare program where everybody single payer, where everybody can make single payments." Okay, and that way we'll get a new healthcare program. Remember me? Remember Dr. Ford, the humble Dr. Ford? Okay. Well, what did I say about health care? I said, if you voted, okay, and voted for the Bull Moose Party representative, okay, the Bull Moose Party, what? Is my party any less effective? Okay, or more effective? Yeah. Bull Moose Party. You've got it, right? I think by now everybody should be fed up, absolutely fed up with donkeys, okay, and elephants, all right? They should be fed up. The Bull Moose Party, okay? What did I say? Every politician that has free medical care and they get the best. Some maniac shoots you in the hip with a rifle on a baseball field. Guess how many operations you'll get? 15 first-class operations, okay? Free, okay? So I will guarantee you'll get the same thing. Every person in America will get the same thing if you vote for me. And remember my program, every single politician that represents all the voters in America, every single one, okay, that represent all the voters, okay, they will make sure that every voter gets free health care. Oh, we can't afford that. We've got billions to pay in bribes. We've got billions to send to Israel, okay, so they can attack us, okay, they can arrange for another 9/11 Pearl Harbor attack. Okay.
Which we need
to, and hey, we need to build some more aircraft carriers, billion-dollar aircraft carriers. Sorry, folks. No way. Bull Moose Party, guess what, Israel? You're going to have to start earning your kopecks and your own shekels, all right? Instead of slaughtering Americans for your money. And our pimped out politicians, guess what, pimped out politicians? You're toast. You're going to be making license plates and making furniture in some federal pen somewhere, okay? Instead of sending some whistleblower to prison for exposing your dirty, filthy deeds.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Remember that 68,000 went through $47 million last year to put patients on dangerous drugs that weren't warranted and to prescribe opioids, which we have a epidemic today, right now. Hurricanes. Let's talk about hurricanes. Okay. Is this going to be the same disaster in Texas that was Katrina was to New Orleans? I think it is. FEMA's floundering around like usual. FEMA, they've been spending all their time building concentration camps for American citizens, and now they can't even take care of some people in Texas with a hurricane that has flooded their coastline there. All right, they're out in the streets, Main Street, in a boat there in Texas. I'm watching it. I'm watching it right now.
Oh, and guess what? Joel Osteen also, there was talk about him not being able to to show his goodness of his heart and let people go into his palace in Houston, huge amphitheater, or I don't know how many seats it was, but he couldn't open that because of flooding. Well, 2 people went down there and filmed, and guess what? There's no flooding in the parking lot or anywhere. The doors are just closed. So Joel Osteen gets a little on that one. So we're really sorry.
Okay, gosh, what is the problem with these ministers and televangelists and so forth? Either they're giving their parishioners money to some prostitute, okay, right, Jim Baker, okay, all right, or my all-time favorite was Jimmy Swaggart, okay, he just couldn't resist the devil's temptations, could he? But he did it with, of course, his parishioners' money, okay, and now Joel Osteen, wasn't he the fellow who said, God wants me to live in an $8 million mansion?
That's the one.
Isn't he the one? Okay. Remember that, people. Remember that, all right? Just remember Jimmy Swaggart, Jim Baker. Oh, I think there were a few more, okay, that just couldn't quite keep their pants up, but used parishioners' money to do it.
Right.
And then there's Joel Osteen with his spoiled, nasty, vicious bitch wife and his $8 million mansion. God wants you to live in that and have a nasty wife like that. All right, Joel, good job. Hey, you're an inspiration. Okay. Let me see, what else? Okay. It'll be interesting to see what FEMA does. Okay. Remember what a disaster FEMA was last time? Well, guess what? FEMA's nowhere to be found. Okay. I personally got an invitation from the Coast Guard, okay, to go provide medical care, and I might take it at the end of the week. All right. I might be there in Houston by the end of this week. All right. Well, guess what, folks? They had to call the Coast Guard up, because FEMA ain't around. Okay.
Right.
They just simply I guess they're more worried about picking up their dry cleaning to go to a banquet,
there you go,
this evening or the next week. Okay.
Greg, now, you said North Korea. Wasn't there something about North Korea shooting missiles over Japan?
Hey, I just love this. First of all, I don't want my supply of kimchi disrupted. Okay. I want my kimchi. So please, Mr. Trump, don't start anything with Korea. All right. Hey, they make the best kimchi in the world. And hey, I just love Korea. Okay. We don't need some big blowhard snake oil salesman trying to divert American attention away from some social disaster we have at home. Okay. What is it? Oh, and where are they going to get the military to deal with North Korea? What is it? 53% of all airplanes are grounded now because they're worn out. Okay. All right. Fighting all these illegal wars, Syria, Iraq, okay, Yemen, Libya. Okay, they're worn out. All right. What is it? We only have 3 brigades that are combat ready to fight tonight, kind of stuff. Okay, that's all we have. Oh yeah, that turned out real well the last time we tangled with North Korea. Okay, look what happened. And remember, the Chinese aren't going to sit around and do nothing. Okay, first of all, this whole thing was started. Understand this, people. The whole thing was started because your presidents have run us into debt, and we needed to make our payments, and we defaulted on our payments to China. Remember what I said? Redirection. Okay? Misperception, redirection. That's what the CIA is doing. That's what this president is doing. Okay?
Yeah.
And another thing too. Hey, if we pick a fight with either one of those countries, where is Hillary going to get all her human traffic from? Okay?
Oops.
Yeah. Now let's not get out of hand here. This pay-to-play stuff. I mean, the USS Chelsea bringing in illegal Chinese. Okay. And by the way, those ships, when they get excited, the captains get excited. What have they taken to doing now? They run into American warships, killing American sailors. What, in the last 4 months, we've had, close to 70 servicemen killed, in those ships. Five ships rammed.
And we're getting.
I see a pattern forming here.
We're getting crackling too from your mic. Sounds like the same disturbance as last time.
Oh yeah. Well, hey, tell the listeners where they can get a fresh press copy of this show from NSA.
There you go.
Yeah. Just contact NSA at Fort Meade, Maryland. All right, and demand a first pressing of this show. Okay, crackle free, distortion free, Meiji free. Okay, it should clear up after I said that. So, okay, North Korea, yeah, they're fighting back. They're not going to take a bunch of static from a flaky president and a bunch of flaky Americans who can't figure out who's going to rip them off. Okay, I can hear that even on this end. Goodness. Okay, can you still hear me, Luca?
I can hear you fine now. I lost the video for a second, but
okay. Well, Americans, my fellow Americans, I say this with a heavy heart. All right. Okay. I think that's what LBJ said. All right.
Yeah.
Be prepared. It's already started. I mean, we can't even find FEMA because they're too busy fixing the camps to receive you, those concentration camps. Thanks to the Nazis, by the way. Thanks to George W. Bush's grandfather, okay, and George H.W. Bush's father, the Nazis gave us concentration camps, okay? And they're alive and well in New Mexico, Arizona, and Alaska, okay? All those picturesque states, okay? So we can thank the Bush family for all the war crimes, the distortions, the endless wars that we've gotten. Oh, and that brings me to 9/11. I want to ask Mr. Bush, who was in charge of the World Trade Center security on 9/11? Any ideas, Mr. Bush? Well, I'll tell you if you don't have any ideas. Your brother Marvin. Now, I'm seeing a pattern. I think our listeners do too. Okay, the Bush's son, okay, George W. Bush is the sitting president. His brother was in charge of the World Trade Center, okay, the WTC. The explosives that were used by the Israelis to prime and accelerate the thermite was Tracor explosive, owned by Halliburton Group, okay? I'm still seeing a pattern here. As slow as I am and dumb as I am, I'm seeing something forming here, okay? And by the way, folks, I saw, and you should go to YouTube and pull up Phil Marshall, okay? Yes, Phil Marshall. I didn't know that they had a special on Phil Marshall. It's The Curious Case of Philip Marshall, okay? Everybody in the sound of my voice should go to YouTube, pull it up. You will have a complete definition of what happened on 9/11, who did it, where the evidence is, the FOIAs, where the Freedom of Information Acts are, okay, to request this information, okay. I saw it last night. That's why Philip Marshall, and remember Philip Marshall, that's why he was slaughtered along with his family. And you'll get to see the entire film footage of what I have been investigating myself myself personally on this case of Bill Marshall, the curious case of Philip Marshall. All right. So I said, as I said yesterday, Luca, drop everything we're doing, investigate 9/11. I don't care if President Trump's son-in-law is best buddies with one of the main conspirators in 9/11. Okay, Benjamin Netanyahu. All right.
Yeah.
I don't care if he knows who Dov Zakheim is, who was the actual comptroller on 9/11. Who cares if their feelings are hurt? Who cares if they're going to say something that happened 70 years ago, 75 years ago?
Right.
Okay, to try to get out of this. I know that sounds anti-Zionist. Oh, well, oy vey. I watched 3,000 people slaughtered, Americans slaughtered. Okay, we shouldn't pick a fight with anybody else in the whole world until we figured out how we had 3,000 of our own slaughtered. Okay, yeah, Mr. Philip Zellicoe.
They don't care. They don't care. And Greg, to finish the show, I'm going to read my apology, courtesy of Ken O'Keefe, who was a former Marine. He wrote an apology to all Muslims of the world. And if you're done, if you finish saying what you wanted to say, I can quickly say it for the end of the show. Are you done?
Yes, I am done.
Okay, because you ended on 9/11, so I said I couldn't help it, because I've said it before and I want to say it again and say it many times as we can. This apology is to all Muslims around the world, in particular for the 9/11 disaster. Quote, this is a quote from him. I want to issue a huge apology to a group of which I'm not a member. If there is one group that cannot be held responsible for the 9/11 event, it is the very group blamed for this crime, and that would be the Muslims around the world. So let me say with resounding clarity on behalf of all sane thinking people, we are deeply sorry that Muslims have been falsely accused of the events on 9/11 and the subsequent countless Muslim lands and people have endured the farcical war on terror. We apologize for the invasions, for the occupations, the drone strikes, torture, Guantanamo, for the maiming and the death that has rained down on you. Let it be understood from this day forward that from this non-Muslim, that we know that the 9/11 false flag was intentionally, falsely blamed on you, Muslims, so as to cultivate a clash of civilizations. We reject the war on terror in total and shall identify those responsible, as we are now, come hell or high water. And that was a quote taken from Ken O'Keefe in his video, Who Did It and Why, on 9/11, which is on YouTube, which I strongly recommend that people go and watch, because it'll teach us a lot. So with that, Greg, thank you so much for being on the show again. And
you're welcome, Luca.
We'll talk to you again.
Okay.
Thank you
so much.